All right, good morning, good evening, good night. It is another edition of the Nifty Q Show. We're interviewing influential founders, leaders, and awesome people in the NFT industry. Today I'm sitting with 8mag and White Chocolate, team members of MassDAO and org to spread awareness of the HASHMASK project and provide value to all Hashi holders. We'll be discussing the origin of PFP projects, what HashMask has been up to since its inception, DAO education, and much more. Guys, I'm really excited to have you in here. HashMask is one of I wouldn't say the first NFT I've ever owned, but it is one of the first, and you guys have a fantastic history in the non-fungible token history space. So I'm just really looking forward to this. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, thank you, Q. Pretty well. Zero complaints here. Woke up alive. How about you, 8mag?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us on. We're any opportunity to talk about hash masks and NFTs, we're always down.
Yeah, and I want to hit right off the bat, man. Happy birthday to both of you in the HashMask time frame. This is about the time that the project actually launched in 2021. I believe it was January 27th, 28th time frame. I want to say happy birthday to both of you.
Yeah, thanks. It's crazy, reflecting, looking back on 1 year and, how much has changed, how much growth has happened in the space, and, what a significant moment that was a year ago. I mean, we're just really excited to kind of be celebrating that this whole week and tomorrow with a big party.
I got to throw this out here because I almost feel like I'm sneaking in because I didn't find out about HashMask until about 2 weeks after. So we're celebrating a year, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it is a year. Not me, but yes and no.
Yeah, right on the front page of HashMask, right? It says be part of digital art and collectibles history. You guys really have cemented yourself, man. When I said that I was gonna have HashMask on this week, I got a bunch of comments on Twitter, in my DMs about how a lot of people's first NFT was HashMask. And I want to get this out of the way real quick. You guys aren't technically associated, right, with HashMask as founders or anything like that. You are community members, and I'll let 8mag hit this one as we kind of make our way into the discussion. And also, HashMask aren't a PFP project. That's what you guys let me know right before we went live.
Yeah, it's an important distinction we wanted to make right away. We are collectors. We're community members of this project. I was really fortunate to be there back in late January and mint 2 hash masks. Stayed really active in the community, continued to contribute, but it wasn't until summer of this past year, 2021, that we formed a DAO. And several of us from the community are now contributing members of that DAO, and we kind of manage the project now. So, and also HashMask is not meant to be a PFP. A little bit of a misconception, but if you look at it, it's a fine art collectible. Doesn't quite have those exaggerated features, not quite sized right to be a profile picture. We're actually doing a PFP drop shortly here to address that missing utility. But yeah, it was meant to be a fine art collectible, really appreciated in full size, in high res, even hung up in your wall at home or in your office.
That stood out when you guys first or the HashMask team first dropped the project. It really, emphasized art. And we're going to get into kind of the differences that we see now as opposed to maybe around that time period when we had a lot more art, maybe less about gaming, maybe less about finance nowadays. So I do want to, kind of steer this discussion towards that history of the NFT space and what your guys' experience was back then as well. So, in that 2021 time period, what did you see as far as the NFT industry space went that we don't see today? Maybe what's the differences that we've seen since you guys got into HashMask back in 2021?
So, I think I probably had a similar background to many people that were early into NFTs, and I was in crypto and specifically in DeFi, and absorbing as much information as I could at the time in mid 2020, late 2020, and I started to hear the word NFTs. It was showing up on my Twitter feed. I was hearing about it in Clubhouse, and I went to Rarible. I think that was my first experience really. And, I was playing around with a couple different NFTs, and Mark Cuban was getting involved, and he was minting a couple different ones.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. He minted something for 0.1 ETH, and then it sold 15 minutes later for 5 ETH. And I'm like, whoa, that was amazing. But then just I maybe bought one or two, nothing that I was really in love with, or that, just trying to try some stuff out. And then HashMasks came across my feed. And I went to the website and I was blown away. I think they really showed the potential of what you could do with an NFT. And they provided an example for this space to really grow.
Yeah, I want to set the stage here before I bring you in, White Chocolate. Like, what was the space like back in 2021 as it came to, again, you guys aren't PFP projects, but was there like similar projects out at the time? Now there's 10 projects launching every day. What was the space like back in 2021 for maybe people that have gotten in the past 6 months to a year timeframe?
It was okay. So the idea of traits, I think there's something we're really looking at now, because the DAO is working on bringing in traits to OpenSea, and it was like, this is the project, and there's stuff. Look for it. There wasn't as many filters on OpenSea. It was kind of like pick what you like, and that was about it. Now, I mean, my background, I had just gotten into crypto. I got really lucky because I was only looking at fungible tokens, and through NCT found HashMasks. So just like a lot of people, my complete first, and for me, it was the art. I think, we have the kind of the older school, which is more pixel, and then what really did it for me, kind of, I guess, a Sega Genesis type. I like the graphics. I like how this looked, and so that brought in. There really wasn't this PFP so much. I mean, I use it on my Twitter profile, yes, but that's kind of how it was, I think, at the time.
Yeah, I want to hit on this fungible token piece here, because I was an investor back in 2016 and 17. What fungible tokens were you interested in around this time period? And then what specifically about NCT attracted you? Because we see a lot of NFT projects now, they're launching ERC20s, more fungible based, but HashMasks was really one of the first to kind of implement this. So take me into your history there with fungible token investing, and then what did NCT kind of trigger in your brain and said, oh, maybe this is a thing that will be successful in the future?
So I had bought Matic under 5 cents, and I figured, okay, this is going to be something I sold I sold and bought HashMasks, because and some other stuff. I wish I still had all my Matic, but at the time it seemed like, well, this is going to be needed. And so NCT brought me in because I guess, when it first dropped with the project, there was a whole lot of volume, and then it kind of slumped off, and it looked like it cupped a bit. And I said, all right, well, this looks like something to get in. And through that, then found, oh, well, this actually has some utility to it. Oh, this is what it's for. Because if you just look at the icon for it and say name change token, which what do I need to change my name for? Like, I don't know. What is this all about? And so that's what really brought me in. I thought about how this could be applied to other projects. You have this at 10 years, it's done. So it's a inflationary, and then it goes deflationary. So I was like, well, I'm in this for the long term, so I'm in.
This goes back to, you were talking about what was around from an NFT perspective and, PFP perspective. Obviously, the CryptoPunks they were the best example. And HashMasks was inspired by CryptoPunks. But as I was saying earlier, they kind of really showed what was possible, and they set the example for this space to grow. And one of those things was, not only, providing this incredible art, but it was an actual utility token that you earned by owning the NFT itself. And that utility token, of course, is NCT, name changing token. It allows you to dynamically change the name of HashMasks on chain. And that was a concept that was not around. It's still really not replicated. We've seen many other projects provide utility tokens, but nothing with real utility, like actually personalizing or customizing your art. Even within our own collection, people have put branding campaigns together, marketing campaigns, protests, trolling campaigns. So there's a lot of potential there. And again, it's just about showing what's possible in the space, and we've seen the incredible growth since then. But to your point, there was not a lot of NFT collections out there. It wasn't until HashMasks and the success that it had, it captured the whole space at the time. I know you were there, Q. It was crazy. You could have been in DeFi or you could have been in fungible tokens, but NFTs were put on the map really from HashMasks. You can look at the volume from OpenSea. It absolutely went insane. And to your point, after that, you had projects launching every day. Now here we are today.
Yeah, and I want to jump into that handoff that the team did to the community. Essentially, I think it's a really cool concept that you see in Web3 a lot, or at least the idea that a project can end up in the hands of the community completely, which you guys are kind of in the process of implementing, essentially. So before we make it there, 8mag, you were talking before the episode here about the difference between art back then and financialization that you see now. Can you kind of break down that concept? I want to touch on this industry point one more time, and then we'll make our way to Mass DAO.
So you mean talk about the change in art, or the change in?
I think the concept that we were kind of going through before we pressed live here was that the space was definitely more about art back in 2020 and 2021,
Sure.
And now you see a difference just in the industry, players, but also kind of a general vibe.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think we were seeing a lot of one-on-ones. You had Super Rare and you had these other platforms where artists were, really being successful, and they had this incredible opportunity to be a creator and be compensated appropriately. The NFTs were providing this frictionless way for them to have success and reach so many people in their audience. And it was all about the art. And, I think HashMasks attempted to continue that narrative, but what emerged is this speculative nature really started to play out. All you had to do was mint any NFT, and you were going to be able to flip it for more. And we're still, I think we're starting to see that die down a little bit. But the space is so small, it's so easily manipulated. An influencer can throw a tweet out and do a pump and dump. People make that analogy back to 2017 with the ICOs. And I think we're seeing that play out a little bit to some extent here in the NFT space as well. But I don't think that'll continue.
Okay. And White Chocolate, I want to throw this question here to you. You guys have awesome profile pictures or NFT pictures and assets here up on the screen that are essentially your guys's, avatar, right? And we were talking about anonymity and the importance of that in the Web3 space. So first of all, great, pictures there. What is that role of anonymity that you guys feel plays a part in why you're here today? Not, on a video screen, but kind of represented by your hash mask.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, so what I've got up there is actually the template from when the founders ran a derivatives contest. They put those out, so that's the base for the male figure. There's also, of course, the female that was available, and people made derivatives of that. And the ones who they really like and haven't been sold are actually going to be able to go on to Coinbase NFT as HashMask derivatives. So I want to throw this out, show people. And then to the anonymity one, I guess it comes back from original crypto that you're in charge. It's, not your keys, not your crypto. I'm an expat living abroad in Latin America, safe country, safe place. But at the same time, I don't want to announce to the world that I do this. There are people I've worked with here locally who know. I mean, my friends know, and it's on that level. And then I think it's also kind of tying into hash masks. It's you put on this mask and you become a persona. And we have people talking. 8mag touched on the protests, and some of these people who are working against legacy are actually in the legacy system. So they have to stay anon. If they want the change to happen, they have to put on a mask and assume a new persona. And part of, I think, the most beautiful thing is that people who have those golden handcuffs or silver handcuffs, a really nice, well-paying job, but there's just a complete soul suck. They're in this to one, change, and two, get themselves out. When they can do that and go full-time crypto, amazing. And we among the team have talked about kind of our own big reveal when when all this pandemic stuff dies down, we're going to get together in a restaurant, a pub, and 8mag is still going to be, you have a weird dream and you think about your teammates and so the others in the community, and they pop up as these avatars and what's it going to be like when we meet in person. And now there's the conflicting of who is it. So I think that's the beauty of the anonymity.
Yeah, you guys were in Art Basel, and I was in NFT NYC, and I'm sure that you guys met people for the first time that you had only ever kind of registered them as maybe a Bored Ape or a HashMask or all of these different PFP projects that exist today. So any thoughts there, 8mag, on anonymity before we make it to the timeline that we were kind of in with HashMask?
Yeah, real quickly. I mean, I think it's the ethos of crypto overall. From as long as I could be, as I remember being in it, on Twitter specifically, nobody really had their real name associated with, whether they were giving, advice about crypto or NFTs. And for me, it was just, I felt no need to necessarily share my personal information. I mean, there's a powerful, it's kind of a powerful concept in a way. These profile pictures represent us, or, you could have whatever you want represent you. But it also, allows people to evaluate you and judge you just based on your contributions or your merit and, how you interact with people. A lot of biases are removed, and things like that. So I think there's certainly pros and cons to it. You have bad actors, but you mentioned NFT NYC and Art Basel and Miami. I was there. People got to meet me. I shared my full name. The anonymity part of it isn't that significant to me, but for the time being, I mean, I also kind of like to just, this is who I am, 8mag.
Love it. I want to give a shout out to the anonymous people in the chat right now. We're live, of course, and if you guys want to throw any questions here to the MassDAO team, definitely throw them in chat. But I see a lot of course, PFPs in the house, so shout out to everyone who is tuning along with us today. Guys, give me a quick background on the HashMask project in like a timeline form of it founding almost a year ago today, launching in that mint process, and then where it's been up to 365 days. What has been going on since that launch? Kind of give me that quick timeline for someone who maybe isn't initiated to HashMask.
Yeah.
8mag, you're the mentor.
Sure. Technically, January 28th was the first mint. It's when it started. And so, yeah, we're approaching 1 year. It's a collection of 16,384 NFTs. They are all unique, with one exception. And this project has done over 40,000 in ETH, traded on the secondary market. We have almost 5,200 unique owners. It is one of the most successful projects of all time from an NFT perspective. I mentioned earlier the founders followed the CryptoPunk model. They were inspired by the CryptoPunks and they followed the CryptoPunk model. And when they created this project, they didn't have a royalty contract in place. They didn't have a marketing team. They didn't have a roadmap. So, nowadays you're launching a project you would never even think. You couldn't even imagine to do that with how competitive the landscape is. And, here we are several months later from, this passionate and really organically grown, strong community. We formed a DAO. And the DAO's kind of main mission here, I should also mention the founders retroactively implemented the royalty contract, which is 2.5%, and that's funded 100% to the DAO. So we, our mission now is kind of raise awareness about this project, remind people of the historical significance of it, remind people of all the great innovations it's brought to the space. And, we're focusing on marketing. We're focused on community building. We focus on participating in these in real life events, highlighting this amazing art. We think HashMasks provides the best opportunity to bridge NFTs to the traditional art world and that massive market. So, we have all sorts of initiatives. We want to get more involved in the metaverse, and anything to add value back to our community and build our community and strengthen it. Education, onboarding, promoting other artists. We have the resources, and we take we think that's a really big responsibility to do what we can for the community.
White Chocolate, do you have any thoughts on those points, or any of the points on like a timeline perspective?
Yeah, I guess it might be important to note that the DAO launched right contemporaneous with the project going, but it had sort of an initial iteration that didn't quite get off the ground, and essentially, I hate to say it, but was essentially dead for a little bit. Few weeks in there, really had no activity, and Adidas, great. I consider my personal mentor and moderator from the HASHMASK team. Came and said, "Hey, you were involved in the tribes competition. What do you say? Let's get this back going again." And we did. We started having calls. 8mag was there. A few other, a lot of people who were on the team were on these really small calls, trying to figure out, well, what do we do? How do we reach out to the community, get them involved? And now that we're funded and we're able to do so many things, these calls continue, and they're big. And we have regular people showing up, because it's the reality of the world that you can do more with money. We raised a little ourselves using the Mask Museum and some NFTs, and looking at other ways, things we're producing. But yeah, that's about the gist of it.
Yeah, I want to touch on the DAO conversation. Of course, you guys are in the middle of, doing something that a lot of communities have a goal of, which is to do a big handoff to, the people who are interested in the project and who are part of that community. So I want to get into the DAO discussion. But before we do that, you mentioned that HASHMASK has this history and has like all of these different features that make it what should supposedly be super competitive within the larger NFT space. Now, why do you feel like that awareness was lacking over the past year with a project that is and could be one of the blue chips in the space?
I would compare this to if you're in a restaurant and you show up early and you're having a regular conversation, and now the restaurant is full and there's a lot of people talking, and the noise floor has risen. Like we were saying at the beginning of this, 10 projects dropping a day, and people start looking and saying, well, HashMasks are at this floor, but I can mint this for 0.02, for 0.04, and all it's got to do is move up to half the price of HashMasks. So maybe I'll focus in on this. It doesn't have to have the art. It doesn't have to have the utility, the history, any of it. And like we were saying, money really has taken a lot over in the aspect of moving away from art. Another thing that 8mag had touched on is when this project launched, there was no marketing. There was no team in place to connect and build those bridges. So we really, I think, kind of fell behind in that way. And it took getting fund. We didn't get funded until September, about the end of September. And then it's the question of, all right, well, now the money's coming in. What do we do with it? How do we make it work? And that led to Miami. And you see on Twitter, people say, I love the way you set up. That's what convinced me. And it's getting out there, chipping away. And if it's slow, organic, consistent growth with people who are going to hold and love their HashMasks, for me personally, that's fine. Rather have them than someone who comes in looking to flip it. I know they're going to be gone in a month.
Hey, Mag, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think if you look at the most successful projects today, they have the most, engaged communities. And, HashMasks was incredibly successful at launch. I don't think we can, underestimate that. And, given that success, as I mentioned, several projects began launching after that. The community they were targeting was HashMasks. And without a dedicated team in place to kind of keep that community engaged, think about it. All you had to do was go to sell an asset, go to the upside was there constantly for people. Now, to White Chocolate's point, I do think we have a really strong organic community that has been through it and really slowly built, which will, I think, have a better impact for us longer term here. And then the other point is marketing, raising awareness. You talked about the people that are new to the space in the last 6 months. Many of them have never heard of HASHMASKS. I mean, it's a shame, but that is the reality. And just like anything in business, you could have an incredible product, but if you don't have good marketing, you won't have success. So again, one of our missions, it's not so much, we have the product, we have the fundamentals. We don't have to manipulate, we don't have to gamify anything. We just have to raise awareness about this project, and I think we'll be right there. But as White Chocolate said again, it's for us. It's not a rush. We're fine. Everything's going well.
Yeah, that's a great ethos to have. And I want to touch on the awareness of different features that you guys are kind of implementing, right? You mentioned a PFP, potentially. You guys said that technically HASHMASKS is an art piece and not essentially a PFP, but that this is actually planned and on the roadmap. So touch on some features for HASHMASKS, on why someone listening to this should get involved in the project, should maybe scoop up a HASHMASK. What is happening here in the next couple quarters?
Yeah, we talked about the historical significance of it, and funny to say after 1 year, maybe, I get it.
All those years ago.
In crypto, it feels like 10 years ago. But HASHMASK was really the first project to offer full commercial rights to the owners, and now you see that's an industry standard. And we talked about the first project to offer dynamic name changing on the blockchain with a utility token. And again, you look at some of this stuff and people aren't even the traits. Punks were the best example of the traits, but now HASHMASK. Now you see, you look at all the projects that have launched since, and they're amazing. They're great communities, but you'll find elements of HASHMASK sprinkled throughout all of those. In terms of, it's just really an original, authentic project. But here going forward, we understood. I mean, it was obvious to anybody in the space. PFP utility, that demand for that was incredible. And you see the athletes use it, musicians and celebrities. And it's something that HASHMASKS was not meant to be. That's the reality of it. So one of the ideas was we're going to be launching 2 new PFP projects, actually. And one option will be to claim the PFP, which is a derivative of your HASHMASKS. So it'll be sized appropriately for your profile picture, exaggerated features, and we'll be able to, if you're a HASHMASK owner, use it in that regard. And then we have a second PFP project, and you'll have an option to choose. The second PFP project is the unmasked version, which is an entirely new collection. Inspired by HASHMASKS, will have elements of HASHMASKS, but will not be mapped to the collection compared to the masked derivative version. So another cool concept where we want to provide utility to our owners in our community. You'll have the choice: take a masked version or an unmasked version, and there is a third choice. You could burn your HASHMASK and claim both. However, you will not see me doing that.
So touch on this. Is this airdropped to the community based on the holders?
Yeah, it'll be a claim. You'll be able to claim, again, it's a choice. You'll be able to claim one for each HASHMASK you have.
Okay. Something just clicked in my brain real quick. You mentioned that one of the HASHMASK is not a one of one. Did you hit on that? What's the story behind this? And we could have a whole show talking about the mysteries and the puzzles and the implicit traits of HASHMASKs. I mean, it's incredibly in-depth, incredibly complex. But within the collection, there is a set. I'll let White Chocolate jump in and describe the set, but it's there's 4 HASHMASKs. I believe it's an Indian mantra, and it speaks to the real and the unreal. And there are 2 HASHMASKs in the collection that are identical. And they are the only 2, and they contain this implicit rare trait, which has that poem. If you go to OpenSea, you'll be able to see it. Just another example of
like I said, just the crazy complexity of this project.
Yeah, absolutely. White chocolate, can you kind of cover some of that, and then also touch on a little bit more of the symbolism? Like even in 8mag's art piece there, you see symbols, you see objects. Give us a little bit of backstory here on what the team was thinking, if you do have that insight, when it comes to the symbolism behind a lot of the HASHMAS features, which are phenomenal. They're beautiful.
Okay, so the real and the unreal are two robot characters with Indian masks. And in the background, there's this, I believe it is the first line of a 3-line mantra. So for anyone who's done mantras or repeated that, it would be, we can think of seeing like then the other two characters have the other lines, and then you would come back to the same. So there's a bit of repetition there. In the symbolism, I mean, we have, okay, so here's 8mag's, and he's got this shadow monkey on the left shoulder. So left shoulder, right? What does that mean? So there's left-handed magic and right-handed magic. You say like left is bad, maybe right is good. And in the Jewish tradition, there's the Yetzer Hara, which is this idea of you're that wily, your bad side. And Alan Watts talked about, the most dangerous people out there are the ones who pretend they don't have that. That's who you really have to watch out for. So I think, that's a theory on what the shadow monkey could represent. There's the Rosetta Stone, which that's 4 HASHMAS as well. And the Rosetta Stone was between Greek, Egyptian hieroglyphs, and then an Egyptian script that was used more by priests and the higher order. Now, we've got Greek glyphs, we've got Egyptian hieroglyphs, but note that those hieroglyphs are in 2 different spots. No idea what that breakdown is, why there's the other glyphs, the mannequins, the planetary symbols. So if you like mysteries, if you consider yourself a detective, we have a very active channel in the DAO. And then I'm gonna throw out one of my masks that we've got an illustrated a book and NFT or an audio book out, that it's an eagle mask with a Jupiter glyph. So representing both the eagle and Jupiter are Zeus. So take it what you mean. There's a lot out there to discover, and it's a constant. We just keep finding new stuff every day, I would say. Every week, let's say.
So are you guys basing certain initiatives off of the fact that like your artwork, when it comes to HASHMAS, is just so much deeper than you see a lot of the times? Like I would say 99% of PFP projects right now have no depth whatsoever when it comes to the actual image itself, whereas you just kind of laid out more than all of them have combined. Do you guys have certain initiatives on finding different puzzles, and is the team working on this with you to like say, oh yeah, that is what we meant when we created that?
Team is giving us nothing. and personally, that's the way I like it. And talking about how things were, in the really beginning when this dropped, we're trying to figure out, there are these dots. Some of them have on the right-hand side, and they're different colors in different locations. Sometimes the color doesn't even appear anywhere else in that piece. So is this Morse code? And people were trying to break it down, and it's not in the metadata. So what could it possibly mean? And there are theories about, are there genetics? Is there some type of breeding? Is this like a big genealogy? And the shift from it's just so deep. And yeah, I think that's exactly right.
Reminds me of Satoshi a little bit, to be honest. 8mag, do you have any thoughts on like, I want to touch on this concept of the team essentially like not giving you much, right? But also kind of like, I wouldn't say dropping the project. They're still involved in some ways as multi-sig signers and things like this, but like, it's just so unique. Why did the team leave to begin with?
Well, right. You look at this project, so much effort and so much originality. As I was saying, the complexity of it, this is not somebody that, threw a project together quickly and, launched it. As we see today so many times, this was really high effort. And, I'll keep going back to the fact that there's pros and cons to being first. And, they launched this project. The space looks nothing like it does today. There was not 100 other projects launching on a daily basis. I mean, if you look at the CryptoPunks, they had 4 years of organic growth with nothing. I just think that it's not to be critical of them. I don't think they made a mistake. They just didn't anticipate. It wasn't their vision. The vision was and it's a high effort project. They did an incredible job. The vision was just not to continue to build day to day. And they left it to the community. I mean, I think that's pure. They didn't collect a royalty fee. There was no ongoing revenue. They sold the project, and that was it. There was no promises of a roadmap. So I think it's an important distinction. And I don't want to be critical of them, but they left it to the community in a really pure way. So here we are as a community and really passionate about this project. A DAO was formed. And we knew we needed to raise awareness about it. I think as this space continues to grow and continues to mature, this project will get the recognition it deserves. Right now, I touched on this earlier, but the manipulation, the gamification of Discords, delist, whatever. People play around with the economics of it. Let me really lower the supply of a project. That, of course, is going to impact the floor price. I mean, HashMasks has a 60% higher supply than all those other 10,000 NFT projects. I mean, this actually has an impact when you're looking at the price, and it much more difficult in terms of to raise the price. But as this space grows, as the tools become available to people to actually analyze these projects and look at these fundamentals, identify some of this, incredibly in-depth work from a mystery standpoint, from a puzzle standpoint, the team is focusing on initiatives in that regard. We want to raise awareness in real life and showcase this project as a real art project. We started a mystery channel. We revived that. Let people get in there and start talking about solving the different parts of the puzzle. So that's the focus, as I said earlier, just raising awareness.
That's just such an important narrative that you touched on. And I think we look at projects oftentimes, or just like things that happen in our lives from the lens of where we are today. And you're right. They're like today we look at projects. Where's your 3-year roadmap? What are you doing? What, like, to incentivize utility, all these things. That might not have been the vision that the HashMasks team had when they launched the project, because it was such a different time. So I think that's a really cool distinction you just made.
We're in a unique situation too. Again, White Chocolate and our community members, we're collectors. We're fortunate enough to be representing the community on the team here and driving some of those initiatives. But the DAO is important to us, and we submit formal proposals and request a vote of confidence to move forward. We're just actually approaching the end of year 0 of our initial proposal, and we will be preparing a new proposal for year 1. And hopefully the community continues to give us that vote of confidence to move forward. If you look at the teams across the NFT space, they're all centralized. And, to do marketing initiatives, to do a new NFT drop, adding value back to the community, to create a partnership, all of these kinds of things that are necessary and we intend to work on are completed in a much more efficient process with a centralized team. We put things to a vote. It's a proposal. I mean, again, I think there's pros and cons to that, but that's just the reality that we're in. It's a unique situation. Fortunately for us, we have superior fundamentals to fall back on, and which for me is the focus has always been just about raising awareness.
Yeah, you guys have a fantastic product, of course, and we have kind of skirted around the DAO conversation. Of course, you guys are team members of MassDAO, and if you've been following this channel for a little while, you've been hearing that term and hearing how much emphasis is being put on that kind of organizational structure in 2022 and beyond. Let's just jump into kind of how you guys think about DAOs and how you think about the mission of MassDAO and how it's been going.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit there. Obviously, I have mixed feelings about it. I pointed to the fact that I think you can be more efficient in certain areas running a centralized. I think anybody that's been a part of a DAO would admit that. But for us, it is also incredibly powerful. You get those full support of the community behind you. We spent a lot of time working on governance, putting a proposal process in place, putting a voting process in place, and making sure that if you have a hash mask and you want to be involved, you're able to participate. If you want to contribute, you're going to be compensated. That's how we build that. It's been a learning process for me personally, coming from traditional corporate structure, but I immediately saw the benefits of a DAO, but at the same time, I do think there's challenges. Somebody on my team mentioned, it's been one of the most rewarding moments, but also one of the most challenging as well. So I love talking about it because we've kind of lived and breathed it here for several months in the thick of it, and we kind of got to experience firsthand some of the growing pains, but also some of the successes. So it's a really interesting thing. It's a buzzword, I think, to a certain extent right now. You hear people talking about it all the time, and we're not even a perfect DAO at the moment, right? There's all sorts of, I'll let White Chocolate jump in at this point, but I mean, there's all sorts of different ways to go about it. So there's growing pains.
Yeah, White Chocolate, I want to get your thoughts on this as well, because like, AMAG just said, it is a buzzword, and there's a lot that goes on with just maintaining that type of organization. Oftentimes it's harder to maintain a DAO because you have all of these people in different spots, and you need to obviously, coordinate between individuals, and you're not in some office, you're literally just all across the world, and you have to kind of coordinate. So what has been the positives and negatives that you've seen through your time in this DAO?
I think it comes down to looking at, like you said, it's challenging and it's so rewarding, because we're trying to find this balance of, okay, we can do it, and I'm going to have to use our team member Outer Lumen's analogy of making a pie. And there's kind of two ways if we're looking at a DAO to make the pie. One, the team, we could come together, make a pie in a day and say, all right, 1,000 people, here it is, it's served. Some people are going to like it, say, great, pie, yum. Others will say, oh, you didn't even ask what I like. This isn't my favorite flavor, what have you. Or we could have 1,000 people putting together proposals on what kind of flavor, what kind of crust, what kind of ingredients, how long, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end, because they were involved in the process, they're going to enjoy the pie on some level. It's not going to please everyone, but it also takes 6 months. So what's the balance in between, right? We have to have some level of involvement. And I think as long as you're paying attention to people and taking what they say, like we had a community member, Rover, who had this idea to create this origin story, and through just talking it out, now if you go to OpenSea, there's that expanded description. So it's really like the most rewarding and challenging part is trying to strike that balance, and in that, maintaining this concept, a fundamental concept of, one, participatory economic stakeholdership. If we have a tweeter's role, if you don't even have to have a hash mask, but if you love hash masks, if you're on Twitter, you can join, you can earn some NCT. And then the other part is one person, one vote. I mean, I have more than one hash mask, but I only have one body. I only have one voice. So I don't personally consider myself more than anyone. We've carried that through. So really glad for that.
Yeah, I think you guys are in an interesting situation because a lot of these teams are still around, of course, that have founded projects. You guys have almost been, in a sense, like pushed into a DAO format very quickly. Like that has accelerated because of the situation with the original team that founded HASHMASKS.
Yeah.
We see how competitive this space is right now, and we also understand how much more competitive it's going to get. I know demand is going to increase, but supply is also going to increase as well. The big brands are coming. The really sophisticated marketing teams are coming. Real capital is coming into this space. Everybody wants a piece of an NFT. Everybody understands, the opportunity and potential to connect your brand to a community like this. And it's extremely important to have a dedicated team in place. So if the DAO can facilitate that in any way, I mean, that's what we're trying to do.
What are some DAOs that are doing this well, and then what are some? I hate to ask the other side of that question because it sounds like I'm like you guys would call out DAOs or anything like that, but maybe even just specific events. So from a positive side, what are some DAOs that you look at for inspiration, and then from a negative side, maybe some pitfalls that you've seen happen? You don't need to name names.
Yeah, I think it's funny though because you said it and I said it earlier. I think it's really a unique situation with Mask DAO in the fact that we represent a collection and we're not tied directly to the founders or the creators of this project. So I don't know anybody else that's doing that. I know there's been several other NFT DAOs created. And there's complexities as it relates to the legal structures and things like that. But the other DAOs that are created are community driven, and they still have those centralized teams. Meebits seems to be doing a really good job. The Bored Ape Mutant Cartel, I think, has done a really good job in terms of building a community and getting contributions. That's how a DAO should function. But as far as what people are doing poorly, it's tough to say. I mean, as it relates to the specific role that we play in our DAO, because you can have a DAO for anything. Flamingo DAO and the way they've invested in NFTs. I mean, that's there's an example on what you can really do and the power of this. So it just depends on the structure. I think ultimately you need key contributors, a dedicated team. You need somebody to really drive it, and you need your community to participate to have success.
White Chocolate, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I would add, 8mag said Meebits DAO and would absolutely agree. Cloud is actually one of the main founders, is actually also a HashMask owner. And he's even come into Mask DAO while we were debating some proposals to say, well, this is how we do it. This is kind of the distinction here, and maybe we want to go this way or the other. And on that, I don't want to say completely the negative side, but if we look at how Hive was taken over, we looked at that and we've gone. Some people would say way too slow, but I really like Tao Te Ching. Sometimes you advance without taking a step, and if we're to move too fast without examining the landscape, we could be taken over. So we look at that example and say, how do we avoid that?
Yeah, the Hive blockchain shout out there. That's interesting. I haven't followed up on those updates, but the DAO, on DAO Combat and like mergers and acquisitions, those are always things that we need to be thinking about, which haven't come to fruition because we haven't seen. The space is just so new. But I love that Hive blockchain shout out, man.
Yeah, and Vitalik had a really good, I think the article was moving past token-based voting. And he said, down in the future, we could have these bribe contracts, not here yet, but hey, I want your vote. You don't really have a lot of tie-in. Basically sell me your vote, and it's all automated now. Boom, taken over.
Yeah, we're talking about utility tokens a little bit as well. That probably I would throw into the negative standpoint. I've seen a lot of NFT projects just launch utility tokens and say, "Hey, stake the NFT and you get this token," and then you see the price chart and it's just, even though everything's getting wrecked, those ones specifically get super wrecked even in a bull market. So NCT, and I don't mean to bring this back to financialization. I think it was an important point that you made earlier, which is that HashMasks is definitely focused on the art, and I love that, and I think you guys should run with that because that's been left, I think, in the dust a little bit as we've kind of ramped up the NFT space. But NCT token, is there any plans from your guys' perspective, or even plans to launch your own utility token, ERC20 token for the DAO?
Well, we actually did. So part of the first iteration, part of the plan was to have a utility token. And so when we got this version kind of ramped up, we said, all right, well, we have to complete that promise. And we did. We did not have an exact plan for how it would be used, except for voting, and then basically by the way we set it up, where everyone was allowed to claim, no matter trying to preserve this one person, one vote, we had discovered that, some very technologically savvy people had shuffled around and accumulated so much that we could never rebalance. And so we defunked it. And then we stepped back and said, well, what really could we do with a new utility token that we couldn't do with NCT? Now, maybe something like source cred, where we were looking at this idea of participatory economic stakeholdership, or, okay, you have this task list, you do this, this, and this, you participate in this way, and then you get rewarded. You have some type of work. But you know what? We could design an app and we to check those things, and we could still pay out an NCT. So as far as personally, I don't see it on the horizon anytime soon as far as, a need or utility. But Mag, if you've got some extra thoughts.
Yeah, as far as a governance token, I mean, I believe, HashMasks, an NFT is a token. So you own a HashMask, you could participate in voting, you participate in our community, you have access to our Discord, and so on. The NCT separately is a utility token. It has a value. It's traded on the secondary market, on Uniswap. And it actually has a real use case. There's a demand for it. Ultimately, it's inflationary right now, as White Chocolate said. You earn 10 per day, but that only lasts for another 9 years. It sounds like a really long time, but that ultimately will come to an end, and the supply is fixed. So from a utilities token standpoint, with an actual use case, we believe the economics of that are going to change over time here. And so, that's we're perfectly comfortable kind of leaving that as is. We do talk a lot about adding additional use cases. It's been integrated into another project for the same use case to change the name. We would like to do that with more projects. We've thrown around a couple of other ideas as well. But yeah, you have to burn NCT to change the name of your hash masks. We think that's one of the best utilities across all the spaces. So we're comfortable with that.
Yeah, two questions. Again, go ahead, White Chocolate.
Sorry, last point. Again, we can't change that. We're from the community. We're collectors. This was created and cannot be changed by the founders.
But the additional utility can then be added, correct? Like you could.
Yeah. So we actually have a former member of the team, a developer, created a whole plan for a project if they wanted to integrate NCT into their own. So that's available, and that's something we'll pursue. I think a little bit more here in 2022. It's always a goal. We have had many projects reach out to us. They want to be connected to HashMasks. They want to be associated with our community, and it makes sense to integrate this great utility token into their own. But we also have thrown around a couple of other ideas, and we can get as creative as we want with that in terms of additional use cases to burn NCT.
Yeah, I'm interested in this conversation, though, because, just sitting here and going down the rabbit hole of utility, which is one that is very deep, so I'm not going to get into it on this episode too much. But like the ability to maybe, buy a physical piece of these HashMasks because they're so beautiful with NCT, that would be dope. Obviously, you got to work around the economics of that and how someone gets paid. They want the cash. They're going to probably have to sell NCT, so it's a give and take there. But what are some of the utility pieces that you guys have discussed in those conversations?
Sure. One of the ones that I really love, and it hasn't been formalized into a proposal quite yet, but a print of a hash mask, right? In scope, we were at a traditional art show, as I mentioned earlier, and the feedback we received was just unbelievable with how well the art looked hanging in real life. So, and we've seen many people in the community get them printed and hung up on their walls at their homes. But one of the things that I thought was missing was that these prints were not authenticated. So anybody could print it, right? And this is kind of something that, people talk about when they criticize NFTs. Oh, right click, save, I can print it, blah, blah, blah. Well, you could do, who's going to really print something out that does that anyway? But one of the things I thought where we can actually authenticate these prints in the same way a traditional artist does. And in order to get it authenticated, the DAO could provide those services, and even set it up on the blockchain. In order to get it authenticated, so you would still traditionally buy a print like you normally would, but if you wanted to get it certified, you would burn some NCT. So that's just kind of one of the ideas we threw around. We talked about implementing NCT in some form or another, potentially rather than burning a hash mask, but we couldn't come to a consensus there. So there's all sorts of opportunities we can go. I mean, it's wide open, really. We can incorporate it into merch and things what we're doing there, which is coming here in the first quarter of 2022, exclusive and limited merch for HASHMASKS. So there's all sorts of potential there. We haven't really focused in on one specific thing and actually ran with it yet.
Awesome. That was a great breakdown. I appreciate you kind of indulging me on the utility talk a little bit there, 8Mag. Listen, guys, we're almost at an hour for the interview here. Been a fantastic breakdown. Thank you so much for coming on. As far as maybe any information you want to get out to anyone listening that wants to get involved in HashMask, or the reason they should get involved, which you already touched on a little bit earlier in the episode, but if you want to recap and then let people know, where they can get involved, do so now.
You want to open up, 8Mag? You want me to
Sure.
open up?
Yeah. I mean, we're on Twitter, and unfortunately for some people, there is this confusion between the HashMasks official team and the Mask DAO. We run all of our marketing initiatives and the Twitter accounts through Mask DAO now. Our Discords. There's 2 Discords. Unfortunately, we're working on resolving that. But in order to get involved, I mean, check out our website, read about the project, learn about it. I just recommend that for everybody in any NFT project you get involved in. Read about it. Get an understanding of the quality of it. The authenticity of it, the creativity to it. The copycat stuff to me is just really getting old. And I'm not sure why there's still some demand there. Don't follow every little influencer that, throws something up there. Do your own research, dive into a project, look for fundamentals, look for quality. Finding more information about HashMask, start at our website. We also have maskdao.io. That's our MaskDAO team's website. But the best place, of course, is in our Discord. Maybe we can share a link in the chat, and feel free to join. We have a dedicated team in there, but also an amazing community that's happy to answer any questions and provide advice about the project. And of course, we're also found on Twitter. We also have an Instagram page. Check out a great place to see this beautiful art displayed.
Yeah, just what 8Mag had said there. It's mass or discord.gg / massDAO if you try to hop into the Discord. And when
you know what I'll do?
I'll
share our Linktree link, which provides all the good stuff.
Yeah, I actually just dropped the Discord link. I'm not sure we have the
perfect
settings set for like link sharing. We don't like this too much, man. But I just dropped the Discord link for everyone that's interested.
Cool.
All right. And I guess what I would throw on there, biggest piece, is coming back to the mysteries. And what really makes this project unique is we're looking for more detectives. You don't have to own a hash mask, but hop into the MaskDAO Discord and see if you can help us solve some of this. I'd really love to see some of this get worked out and have a definitive view on what these founders could have possibly been thinking when they put this massive thing together. So appreciate any help, any sleuths out there. Join us.
All right, 8 Mag, White Chocolate, I appreciate you guys joining me today. Last thing, what do you guys have planned for birthday tomorrow? Like, do you guys have a birthday week or birthday celebration here?
We've been doing giveaways every day this week, highlighting different amazing features about the project. And tomorrow's kind of the everything comes together. We'll be giving away several different hash masks. We'll be spending some time in crypto voxels, in the mask museum that we built, and also some USDC prizes as well. So it's just really for us about raising awareness about this project, celebrating this really important milestone. One of the first projects to be able to kind of accomplish that. And we're really proud of the success it's had to this point. And hopefully, please come out and celebrate. We'll have live music. The team will be there. Hopefully, some other guests, some key influencers throughout the space. So it should be a really fun time.
What time is that event at?
2 p.m. Eastern. And
this is Twitter Spaces from 2 to. It starts at 2, and then we'll be in the Mask Museum starting at 3. So that's when we'll kick off with that live music.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
So we're gonna run NFT Live. We have NFT Lives on Fridays, where I have a co-host, and then we kind of are able to screen share and do a lot of cool things. So what we'll do is we'll start NFT Live in the museum, the HASHMASKS museum there.
Ooh, lovely.
So hopefully I get to see you guys, your avatars, in Crypto Voxels. That'll be exciting.
Oh, thank you, Q.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll see y'all there. I want to give a last shout out to the chat today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Of course, this will be on audio afterwards as well. About 24 hours, guys. It'll be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify's, for all of you that are looking to get your content that way. So thank you for stopping by the Nifty Q Show. 8 Mag, White Chocolate, thank you guys so much for dropping in and getting the history education going.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Very much.